Welcome to Beyond Your Why podcast, where we go beyond just talking about your why and actually help you discover and then live your why. You see, we believe that knowing your why, that driving force behind every decision you make and every action you take, is the essential first step to really knowing yourself. It allows you to move forward faster and have a bigger impact. If you're already a fan of the show, then you know that every week we talk about one of the 9 whys, and then we introduce you to somebody with that why so you can see how their why is played out in their life. This show will be more powerful for you if you've already discovered your why. If you still need to do that, head over to WHY.institute.com and discover your why today. It'll only take you about 5 minutes. Now, let's meet today's guest. This week, we're going to be talking about the why of simplify. So if this is your why, then you are one of the people that makes everyone else's life easier. You break things down to their essence, which allows others to understand each other better and see things from the same perspective. You're constantly looking for ways to simplify, from recipes you're making at home to business systems you're implementing at work. You feel successful when you eliminate complexity and remove unnecessary steps. And so today, I've got a great guest for you. His name is Youtsey. He's a dynamic leader, endurance athlete, and expert in business transitions. A former commercial banker turned entrepreneur, he was among the first globally certified Ziegler coaches, using his expertise in finance, team building, and the Berkman assessment to help business owners create success without sacrificing personal fulfillment. As co-founder of Legacy Leader, Graham, alongside his wife, Janelle, guides entrepreneurs in building lasting influence, aligning with their true calling, and achieving balanced success. Passionate about health and fitness, he helps leaders optimize their well-being while making business fun again. When he's not coaching or building teams, you'll find Graham pushing his limits in endurance sports or sharing insights on the Legacy Leader YouTube channel. Graham, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks. Apparently, the first thing I need to simplify is that introduction.
That's a mouthful, but it tells us a lot about your story and a lot about where you've been and where, what you're doing for other people. So let's do this. Let's go back in your life. Let's let our audience get to know you. Take us back. Where were you born and what were you like growing up? What were you like in high school?
Okay. I was born in Bellingham, Washington, a small little town, college town. My parents were up at Western and they met and then I showed up. And so then, I hung out on college campus and I was independent from the minute I could literally walk. 3 years old, I walked about a mile to the fire hall because, the fire station's there. Why not just go there and hang out? When I was 5, there was a fire about 3 miles from the house. So I followed the whole fire crew on foot and I watched the fire. I had some freedom that many young kids didn't have, and you certainly couldn't have today. And then in college or high school, I definitely was part of all sports and captain of the teams and coach and part of the leadership and different, president of this or that. And so, yeah, definitely been in leadership forever.
Why do you think you found yourself in leadership? Why do you think you found yourself in being the captains?
Well, the first thing is by default. People followed me. And so, which got me into more trouble than not doing it. And just because if I strayed just barely outside the lines, that gave permission for other people in class for it to be a free for all. So I would be the one down at the principal's office and getting yelled at by my teacher for causing trouble. I said, well, I didn't even do anything. Look at what these guys are. So just naturally people would gravitate towards me. And I also feel like I had everybody's best interest in mind. And so I tried to just bring people together and unify everybody.
Would you say back in high school, you were somebody that was always a problem solver for other people? I mean, again, did you decrease complexity? Were you the straight shooter? Like, let me just tell you what it's like here. No fluff, no beating around the bush. Here it is. Is that kind of your ammo? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And whether that was with somebody on the basketball team or the soccer team, I could say, hey, look, you're not playing well. Step it up, and we need you. And and they would hear it. Because a lot of times people can say those things, but they don't necessarily land. And so fortunately, I was able to get those comments to land in a way.
So if we were to see you walking down the hall in high school, what would we have seen?
I probably had some sort of random pink or teal on because I knew that infuriated some of those true macho guys that were. So I was a little antagonistic in that regard. And I would always there would be a group around me. I mean, there'd be 4 or 5 guys, girls, it didn't matter. Just we'd all be hanging out and moving in a pack. But that pack was always different. My mom we had this conversation years after. I hung out with the chorus. I hung out with the band. I wasn't in either. I hung out with the soccer team, the football team, the rest. There wasn't a group of the super smart kids. All the kids I didn't belong with that, got perfect scores on SATs and went to Harvard and Yale and MIT. I hung out with those guys. Hopefully I learned something from them. But so I definitely brought the people together in that regard.
So we're going to let the cat out of the bag here a little bit, because for all of you listening, we already talked about Graham's why being to simplify, to make things simple, decrease complexity, make things direct, to the point, don't beat around the bush. But what we haven't talked about yet is his how, which he just mentioned. So Graham's how is to challenge the status quo, think differently, not follow the rules, not do it the same as everybody else, push limits. Ultimately, though, what he brings is a way to contribute, add value, have an impact in other people's lives. So simplify, challenge, contribute. So I think we're seeing that play out pretty loud and clear right there. So you were not the guy that just followed the same as everybody else. You're going to push people outside their box and get them to see things differently.
Well, for sure. And when you said that, I was laughing there's so many times in my life that in high school, I started the teacher started it, but then I was tapped on the shoulder and then it grew from there. But we started a leadership group where we had, instead of study hall, I went and actually taught kids in another study hall that were struggling for whatever reason. And so that wasn't cool. And then it became cool. Or at the bank, that was the other thing that jumped out at me is I challenged the status quo of the dress code at the bank. It's like, why do I need to wear leather-soled shoes and a suit and tie when I'm going to a farm walking around in cow crap? I mean, it made no sense to me. And so I would show up with boots and tennis shoes so that I could change, in jeans and a polo shirt. And I got in so much trouble for the first, 3-4 months. I said, well, same thing with the fishing boats. I'd be down at and fish guts are flying all over. Why would I need to be in a suit and tie? First of all, it's not safe to have a tie that can get stuck in like what's that? Oh shoot, I can't remember the name. But anyway, the thing that peels the shrimp. And you get that thing taken off. You get your whole head taken off. And so we ended up winning in the whole bank over a year's time, changed to it was okay to dress according to your client.
I love it. Well, let's go up. So now in high school, you graduate from high school, off to college, right? Where'd you go to college?
Western Washington University up in Bellingham. I didn't move far. It just made sense to stay there for a variety of reasons, mostly economic.
Yeah. And what did you go into in college?
That I didn't do simplify. No, I was going into accounting. And because my dad was an accountant, he was a CPA, I was the heir apparent, I should take over his practice. And so I followed that route and then spent a lot of the time in the communications department, history department, because I actually enjoyed those. And I didn't enjoy accounting. So, but it's what I was, I always joke, you can train a monkey to do an accounting because I'm living proof. And, so yeah, that was the direction. So
yeah. So now looking back on if we were to look backwards, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for somebody with the how of challenge that doesn't want to do it the same as everybody else and follow the rules to go into accounting, right?
No, not at all. It drove me crazy to sit there and do the spreadsheets and taxes. I mean, it's just miserable. It doesn't make sense. Let's simplify this.
Yeah. And so while you were in college, what kinds of other things were you into? It sounds like you were into endurance athlete, or is it adventure or endurance athlete?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So I did in college. That's a good question.
Is it, for our listeners, what are we talking about? And then how did you get into it?
Yeah. So to answer the question, I do both or did a whole lot more, both endurance as well as adventure. So the endurance piece is something long, at least a marathon if you're running, or maybe 50K, 100K. Bike rides were at least 100 miles, if not 500 miles. Mountain biking was all day event. It wasn't just a 2 hour you're off, but you were there from, out in the, in the woods from breakfast to dinner. Adventure races that I love. Those are my favorite. I haven't found a partner to do it with me in a number of years. So if anybody out there wants to, let me know. But those are like 2 or 3 days. So they take the adventure piece and compound it. So you would go and run for 10 miles, hike for, go spelunking, go kayaking, canoeing, mountain biking, road biking, all in a day. And then you just gorge yourself, fix everything that broke, and do it again for, another day, 2 days in a row. So that was my all-time.
Why did you get into that?
What do you think? You just said it. It's the challenge.
I know.
It was because I could push myself. How far can I get my body to go, whether I'm prepared to or not? This weekend I did a Spartan race. Never done a Spartan race. So you give Graham an option. First of all, my buddy said, I bet you can't. So he knows my why. He challenged me. And then I said, what race are you doing? And he said, well, there's 2 options. You have the 5K or the 10K. So, well, then I'm doing the 10K. Why would I only do a 5K if I can do a 10K? I don't know if I can do a 5K, but it just seemed to make sense. So challenge is definitely what gets me up in the morning, pushes me. And then if I can add that to contribute to people and fill them up, that's just okay.
So now you're graduating from college with the prospect of being a freaking accountant. And how did that play out in your head? And what was that like showing?
Yeah, my first job, I went, Dad, I'm not working for you. And we kind of had that plan that, I should work elsewhere prior to. Well, I knew I was never going to work for him. So it was an easy, I think I'll do this instead. So my first job, I was in sales and recruiting for a temp agency. And because why not? And we crushed it more than we probably 100x the company. I mean, we had a super team. It's one thing for me to be out on the streets, beating the streets but the team inside, they could hire, they could place, and they did a phenomenal job. So it was really easy just to be out in the community because I wasn't really selling. I was just telling everybody that, Michelle is the best. Go talk to her and she'll make sure she finds the right person. So, and then my second job because of that one was at ADP, payroll company, because they thought that if A, I can sell temps, and B, I have an accounting background, I must be able to do that. And I stunk. I did not do well at that job at all. That was not one of my better careers.
Why do you think you didn't do well at it?
I don't feel like, I don't know if I just didn't enjoy, talking about accounting. Why would I care about a payroll? And so I think that if I look at these, it did reduce complexity. It was challenging and it did help, in a way contribute. So that's a good question. Why I didn't do well at that one at all. That's because it does kind of hit both of those. What do you think?
Yeah, but as far as challenge, it's being able to think outside the box, being able to push them, being able to imagine extraordinary, see things the rest of us don't see. I don't know if you could do that in payroll because you're pretty much in a box, right?
For sure. There was, what I sold was a box.
Yeah, and how do you feel about being put in a box and being told what to do?
I don't do that well.
No.
I haven't since I came out of the womb. So I'm probably not going to start now.
So that didn't go well. Then what did you do after that?
That opened up my banking because I was out just talking to everybody in the community, and the bankers are, wow, accounting, payroll, and people, and you're willing to knock on the door because bankers are notorious. They're as bad as accountants. They just sit behind the desk doing the numbers and that's it. They might pick up the phone if it rings, but they're not out trying to solicit business. And so then that's when I became a commercial lender. And I started off, I don't know, probably 3 months is all learning the nuts and bolts. And then by then I was off and running. And so I was able to build my portfolio pretty quick.
Gotcha. And so how long were you in banking?
Just under 20 years, like 19 years and 10 months or something. And I was at WHY.os. So the 20-year mark would have certainly happened had that not just gone out of business overnight.
No. And so what was a 20-year career in banking like for somebody that has your WHY.os? What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was, looking back, it was really hard.
Yeah.
When you're in it, I was providing for the family. It was stable. It wasn't accounting. And I really focused, and I was able to really focus on helping the client. And so when I started in banking, I went quickly from, just being hired to start to then instantly was able to start, build my own portfolio. And I was able to go and find people, businesses that I liked, that I understood, and that I could help. And so that was that's why I was good at it, because I could go out and I understood. I'd walk into a lumber yard and I could tell you after a couple of meetings what each tree value was and who might be an ideal client. And because I just asked questions, I was curious. And I was the first banker on probably 2 or 3 of these lumber yards sites specifically to actually walk the entire facility and learn each of the jobs and the functions and do all of that. And so that was unique. Fishing boat, same thing. I'd get down in the hole. I didn't care. I wash. So I'd go and I figured out the difference between the salmon and the fish, or the whatever was, the different things. So I really got curious about it, but then that I could then say, I can help you. So that was how I could do it. That's how I made it work, I guess.
So 20 years, or almost 20 years in the banking, ended how long ago?
It's been almost 20 years now. Right? No, I don't even, what year is it? I don't even know. 2024, oh, no. I'm sorry. 2012. So 13 years ago, I guess. Yeah.
And so when the banking ended, then what did you do?
Yeah, that's, and the banking ended because my wife told me I was crabby and I needed to get out and do something else. But my pride, my identity, my ego, all of those things played into me saying, well, what else would I do? And a little self-doubt potentially. So that's when Zig Ziglar's training came up, and I happened to be accepted for that. And so that gave me momentum. And then I went out and we've always been into real estate. And so we picked up 3 rentals that were just dumps. And I went in and some of the things I did myself, but mostly I was just the general, and I could see a start and a finish to the project. And that just let me kind of reground myself, and then ended up working for Janelle after.
Gotcha. So let's talk about that. Janelle, what does Janelle do? Now, Janelle's your wife. So what does she do? Or what did she do at that time?
Yeah. So Janelle has, she started a facilities company. So janitorial, landscape maintenance. So cleaning toilets, mowing lawns for commercial buildings and properties all across Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and even Northern California and Utah. So
you'd be good at that.
Yeah. I can mow a lawn. Yeah. And that's what happens when you're the owner's husband and they hire you to go do some sales, and they go, well, you can actually clean up all right and communicate with the other owners. Why don't you go meet with the clients? And then it's, the guys didn't show up to mow the lawn. We need a crew. Well, you are the crew. Go get in the truck, take off, because I was already insured. But yeah. So there were a lot of little moving parts in that. And it was a lot of fun because it was challenging. Every day was different. Mm-hmm. And I didn't report directly to her, so that was not a problem. So and she had a team of, 25 executives maybe that reported to her, and I was just an employee at that point. And so it was, I could kind of slide under the radar. There was definitely, just by default, people came to my desk to ask me questions that were probably not appropriate, for me to be answering or being asked. I'm not the owner. I'm an employee just like you. So we did have to navigate some of that.
Yeah. So a big difference from being in banking to mowing lawns and being the maintenance boy.
Yeah. A big difference. And I wasn't the best maintenance guy. I was better at mowing lawns and cleaning toilets than I was fixing something.
So you did that take us through that career path.
Yeah. Janelle and I worked together. We worked together probably for 8 years. But in the meantime, we started this coaching business on the side because I was this Ziegler piece. She didn't want me to come in full time, and initially, so I started coaching and doing a little bit of speaking. And she really loves building the people. She loves building the company. She's a builder, and so when so she wanted to do that with other CEOs. So we started our own mastermind and our coaching a little bit. And then that allowed her, for when it was time to exit the company in 2019, that she was able to, we were able to just fully go into that full time.
So let's talk now about what you're currently doing. So that's been since 2019.
Well, 2014, I started it, but 2019, I guess we went full time. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of coaching do you do? What kind of businesses do you like to work with? What is it? What are people coming to you for?
Yeah, it's interesting. So first of all, we do business coaching, executive coaching. We work with entrepreneurs, owners, founders. We do have a few CEOs and C-suite, but the primary group of people that we work with are the owners. The revenues are, 5 to 50 million, because that way they have some employees, they have some challenges. They may have a payroll issue that, I can rely on my banking background to figure out, or there may be a hiring issue, which Janelle with 500 employees has probably dealt with over time. And so we take our past experiences and try and help. But the other big piece of it is to come together and say, look, your business life and your personal life are the same, and you need to work on both simultaneously. And it's a holistic approach. So let's figure out what other issues you have. Are you estranged from your kids? Does your wife not talk to you? What is it personally you need to work on? And so last week, we just had a mastermind here in our home in Arizona, and there were 18 people. And out of the 18 people, 13 had personal goals and issues, not business. There are 13 out of 18. And this is a business, quote, business mastermind. These are all business owners coming together, and they're like, a couple of them, they have cash flow issues. Okay, well, we'll work on that. Janelle's working on one of those right now even. But yeah, for that, if we can solve some of those problems, the business will take care of itself.
Yeah, so you said your business and your personal life are the same. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's so often, just even by age, let's take age as an example. When you're young, you have a smaller business, you get older, you graduate, the business grows, you get older, and you become more, you're wiser. Now it's more complicated of a business because you have more employees, or you're doing different services, or you added another product. And in your personal life, maybe you started your business and you're single. Now you're married. Now you have kids and a dog and a house. And so both become more complex simultaneously. And too often, I think we only pick one side of the equation and go try and figure it out. I'm going to the gym. Okay, what will that solve? And it may solve what you need, but let's dig a little deeper. Or, man, if just when I get to $20 million, if just when I get to $3 million, I'll have all these other issues. Then I can go work on my wife and my kids' relationship. You need to do it together and simultaneously.
So you work with people that are either experiencing problems or or they're either experiencing them, they're going to experience them, or they just got out of them, right? Kind of the same thing.
Correct. Yeah. And everybody is humble and they want to learn and grow and improve. And none of them, even the ones that look like they have it all together, have it all together. And so, so that's a big piece of it, is that, everybody, we have a chop session, a hot seat, and it's a challenge or opportunity. And you can decide, you fill it out, you give it to me, I decide who gets to present to the group, and then we'll talk about it. And I had 2 business opportunities presented that I thought were fabulous. So I chose them. About 5 minutes before, one of the people that I had selected said, "Can I change it to a personal?" It's like, of course, kind of more on the fly rather than any structure to it. And we had the entire group we try to do 20 to 30 minutes max. And I'm in charge, and we try to keep things on time. We were very much like to have structure to it, mostly Janelle. And she's looking at me like, you have to cut it off. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is building deep connection. And everybody, even when I did say, okay, we should probably stop, everybody's like, no, we can just cut the other next section short. We want to help in this situation. And so we had everybody crying, we had everybody laughing. And so building that deep connection and just creating an open and safe place for these people, because they all own businesses. they're isolated in many cases. As a business owner, there isn't someone your family mostly probably thinks you're crazy. Your kids don't necessarily, people don't understand. And so this is a safe environment.
I know some people in your mastermind, and all I've heard is wonderful things. And so if someone listening to this right now, with respect to your masterminds, who are you looking for? Who would be a great candidate for your mastermind, and who would maybe not be a great candidate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the first, foundationally, we like to just tell people faith, family, and impact. If you have faith, we're not saying what type, we just, you have to have a foundation of beliefs, and you can decide what that means to you. And then family, there are so many great groups out there that there's no focus on family whatsoever. They don't have family. They don't talk about family. So the faith and family is big. And then let's make an impact. Let's grow your business so you can make a bigger impact on the world. And let's improve your personal life so that you can have a greater impact on those that you're around, whether it's your employees, your family, your friends, and whatever that looks like. So that's who it's for. It's not for somebody that goes, I got it all together. I'm only just building this unicorn to sell. I don't need any other help. It's not for somebody that isn't willing to be vulnerable. If you're not vulnerable, it's the wrong crew, because they're going to extract it from you, especially. So that would be the key. Yeah. And then you have to have some success, I guess. The other piece is a little, we want everybody to have had success. The age range is 34 to 87, 67. We have an 84-year-old that was talking about joining, but 67 is the age range. And so they've had career success, and they know there's more out there and they want more. And that might be just taking their business from 1 to 3 million, or 3 to 20, or 20 to 100. And so that's a part of it as well.
So let's go back to something that I've been wanting to ask you. And that's, how does the endurance adventure races, what do you learn from those that you apply to the type of coaching that you do?
That's good. That's a great question. So what that does for me is, one, it forces me on a schedule. I'm one that I need that carrot. You kick me, I don't listen very well. But if you dangle a carrot out in front of me, I'm going to chase for that carrot. So having that event set time out, then I will then get up and do my morning routine more successfully. If I don't have the carrot, then, do I really need to get up and have meditation and quiet time and Bible time and journaling and da-da-da-da? But if I have a carrot out there, then it's like, I got to work out. So therefore I'm already up. I might as well do the rest of these things. So for me personally, then I can share that with others and help, say, this is how I do it personally. And then overcoming, I'm embarrassed to say, I got my first DQ this last weekend. I did the 10K and I did fine. And I did exactly where I had hoped. It's crazy how the brain does. However, on the next day, I decided to sign up for the 5K because why not? And I couldn't. I physically was not capable and ready to do it. It was just too much. And so I, for the very first time in my life, walked off without finishing. I've never done it before, and it still kills me right now. I'm still working through that.
You better go run it after one here.
Yeah, and it's just so by committing to that and then saying I can do it and showing. I didn't know what I was in for. I'd never done a Spartan race. You're climbing in the mud with barbed wire over your head. You're climbing over these A-frame, these cold monkey bars, all these crazy different obstacles, and it really just forces you both mentally and physically to go outside of your comfort zone. And if we can do those long-term, do those events like that, then we can do them in our home. We can do them at work as well. We can put in the time and effort. And because all of our businesses are endurance races. None of them are sprint.
Yeah, I love that. So what's the best piece of advice you've maybe ever been given, or the best piece of advice you've ever given?
Well, I think that the first thing that comes to mind is never give up. And no matter what, when I was a kid, it was just push through. And one of my favorite quotes is, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so you got to believe that, give me the ball. I want to I want to grow. I want a new product. I want to innovate, whatever that is. So, just challenge yourself, which is interesting because that's and keep talking about that coming back. Yeah, there's a theme here. And so that's interesting that, just never give up. So would be one of the things.
So it makes sense why that's just eating you up about the 5K. I had on my podcast a bit ago, a gentleman like yourself that does the adventure races. You might even know him, but same thing, no matter what. He was a Navy SEAL, never quit, no matter what. And he was in a race where he finally had to quit because he knew that the guy that he was doing it with had to get to a specific place. He was only doing it for his friend, but he had to get to a specific place in order for him to keep going. And he knew that he couldn't do it. It was through the snow and all this crazy stuff. And he's like, I can't get there in time with you. You got to go without me. And then he quit. And just like you, he said, man, it eats him up night and day because he's never done that.
Yeah. And I just signed up randomly. It's not like I had trained specifically. Had I trained specifically, I'd probably have a better excuse, but no, let's just go do this tomorrow. And, those obstacles and the buckets became exponentially heavier and harder.
Yeah. It's not just going out and running a fight. It's going out and running.
No. If it was just the 5K, I would have walked it if I had to. But yeah, it was the 30 burpees because I didn't do with the spear throw correctly. The last 30 burpees because I didn't lift up the 40-pound thing at the gauntlet. Those are the things that I just like. There's going to be another day. So I signed up for one in September instead.
There you go. Awesome. So Graham, if there's people that are listening that would like to connect with you, learn more about the coaching that you do, the events that you're having, all of that, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
They can reach out just at my email, Graham at legacy-leader.com, GRAHAM at LEGACY-LEADER.com. Or you can go to legacy-leader.com and just check it out. It's on the website. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all those other places that we find each other on these days.
Well, before we go, let's talk about that name, legacy-leader.com. Why legacy-leader.com?
Legacy Leader. Well, it's just, we felt that we want to help leaders leave a legacy.
Okay.
And so what does that look like? For everybody, it's different. For some, it is building a massive amount of wealth to give to their kids. Others, it's to give to a church or a hospital or a foundation or something else. Others, it's to simply write a book that could be passed down for generations. But so what does a legacy look like is different, but we wanted to help leaders build that and create that.
Awesome. Graham, thank you so much for being with us today. Totally enjoyed it. Look forward to, I know you and I are going to stay in contact because we're both in a Genius Network together. So thanks for being here, and we'll continue our relationship as we go.
I look forward to it. It'll be fun.
I really hope you enjoyed today's episode and that through today's guest, you heard how important it is to know your why and how impactful it can be in your life and the lives of those around you. Be sure to head over to WHY.institute.com and discover your why today. Remember, the more you know about yourself, the more you'll know about others. I'm Dr. Gary Sanchez, and I'll see you on the next episode.